So, what happens when an entire society just decides to embrace a lie? Today, we're going to break down a classic story of how a kingdom can rot from the inside out. It's this really chilling account of moral decay, of economic exploitation, and it's all drawn from the text of Mosiah, chapter 11. It really shows us the anatomy of a fallen kingdom. And at the heart of this whole story, there's one single, powerful question. What is the true cost when a leader's corruption becomes the law of the land? We're going to trace that cost together, from one man's decision all the way to a kingdom teetering on the edge of total collapse. It all kicks off with a transfer of power. A new king, a guy named Noah, takes the throne, and the changes he makes are, well, they're swift and they're devastating. So let's take a look at how one leader's choices can completely unravel the moral fabric of an entire society. Right off the bat, the text shows us these two very different paths. You've got the one his father, Zenith, built, and then you've got the one Noah chose to walk. And as you can see, this isn't some minor detour. It's a complete rejection of his father's legacy. It's a dangerous U-turn on the kingdom's core values. So, what did this new path actually look like? Well, it meant throwing out established laws for his own personal desires. It meant indulging in all kinds of excess. And, most critically, it meant having a king whose private vices became the public model for everyone else to follow. He didn't just sin in private, he basically made it policy. Now, this is a classic move for any corrupt leader, right? To lock down your power, you don't just change the laws, you change the gatekeepers. Noah got rid of the established moral authorities and replaced them with people who were just like him. Arrogant, self-serving, and loyal only to the new corrupt system that they were all benefiting from. Okay, so a lifestyle like this, it doesn't come cheap. So where did all the money come from? This next part, it dives right into the economics of corruption, how Noah actually built and paid for his entire wicked enterprise. The source of all this wealth? It came down to one single brutal number, 1/5, 20%. Noah slapped a flat tax of 1/5 on everything his people owned. I mean, think about that for a second. 1/5 of their livelihood, of their work, of their future, all of it just siphoned off to become the financial engine for the kingdom's decay. And get this wasn't just a tax on your income, it was basically a tax on your existence. It was on their assets, their gold and silver, the metals they needed for tools, their livestock, even the grain they grew in their fields. Basically, every single thing of value that the people produced was now partially owned by the state. And the text is super clear about where this money went. There's a direct line from the people's hard labor to the elite's luxury. The money went to support the king, his huge household, and that new, corrupt priesthood he'd installed, who, by the way, are described as being lazy and idolatrous. And all of this leads to what the text calls riotous living, a culture of just pure excess. The people's money is spent on elegant buildings, a massive palace decked out with gold, and these huge, towering monuments to the king's own ego. Noah even plants vineyards to make tons of wine. And this culture of drunkenness, led by the king himself, starts to take over the whole kingdom. You know, when a kingdom is rotting from the inside, it's amazing how blind it becomes to the dangers on the outside. All this internal decay, it breeds this misplaced and frankly dangerous sense of arrogance. And sure enough, the first big consequence shows up, an external threat. The Lamanites start raiding the borders, killing citizens, stealing their property. Noah's first response is just weak. It's totally ineffective. His guards are not enough and they get overrun easily. And even though his army eventually manages to push the enemy back, it's only for a little while. So you'd think this would be a wake-up call, right? Nope. Instead of seeing this as a major red flag, they see it as proof of their own greatness. After one minor success, the people become incredibly arrogant. They start boasting that, oh, a handful of their soldiers could defeat thousands of the enemy. This is a kingdom that is completely detached from reality. So into this completely delusional, self-congratulatory kingdom walks one guy with a very different message. This is the story's big turning point, where the prophet Abinadi confronts the king and his people with a reality they absolutely refuse to see. And Abinadi's message, it's the exact opposite of all their boasting. It's direct, it is harsh, and it's a warning of divine judgment. He looks at their riotous living and he calls it what it is, an abomination that will bring about their total destruction if they don't change course. And he's not vague about it either. He lays out the specific consequences for them. It's this clear three-step prophecy of what's coming. First, they will lose their freedom and be brought into bondage. Second, they're going to suffer at the hands of their enemies. And third, when they finally cry out for help, they will find that no one is listening. So what happens when you confront a system built on lies, pride, and corruption with the cold, hard truth? Well, it reacts with rage. This last part details the violent backlash against the one man who dared to challenge the kingdom's delusion. And check this out. Notice who reacts first. It's the people. The very people being exploited are the first to turn on the truth teller. They've become so invested in this corrupt system that they don't see him as a liberator. They see him as a threat to their fragile little reality, and they immediately want him silenced. Now, when the message finally gets to King Noah himself, his response is just, wow, it's pure hubris. He doesn't ask, hey, is this true? He asks, who is the Lord? He's basically placing himself and his kingdom above any higher authority, completely rejecting the idea that he could ever be judged. And with that, the debate is over. The king's final response isn't to repent or even to argue. It's a simple, brutal command: execute the messenger. He doesn't see Abinadi as a prophet with a warning, but as an enemy who is stirring up trouble and just has to be eliminated. And this is really the final stage, isn't it? The rot is now complete. It's systemic. It's not just a corrupt king anymore. The people themselves are described as having blinded eyes and hardened hearts. And the king, in perfect parallel, also hardens his heart. From the top all the way to the bottom, the entire kingdom has made its choice: delusion over truth. And so that leaves us with this one last, kind of haunting question. This was a society with wealth, with impressive buildings, with military confidence, but it was all built on a lie. And when they were faced with the truth, they chose to kill the messenger, which really makes you wonder, what is the real price of that kind of silence?